Hello, this is Natives Helping Natives. I'm Harry MacArthur with Bob Thornton, and we have Meghan
Shirey.
Shirey.
I know it may be the hardest last name to pronounce along. Everyone calls me Shirley, to the point that my husband, when he grew up, he played baseball and they called him Temple. Shirley Temple.
No.
Yeah, because nobody could get his last name
that's
right.
I don't know. That Marine being called Shirley Temple, I bet there was some butt whippings that followed that one.
That was far before he was a Marine, I'll tell you that.
Okay.
But yes, Meghan Shirey.
Shirey.
And Meghan, as a lot of you know, is everywhere in the community. And she represents the Boys and Girls Club. And she does a phenomenal job. She's a connector. And it's just been a pleasure to watch this woman blossom into a community leader and another torchbearer that she's out there changing lives.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I've been gifted, I think, a lot of opportunities in my careers to share and grow and move forward into places I never had any idea I'd ever land. I mean, if you would have asked me 15 years ago when I was selling beer for a living if I'd ever be where I am right now, absolutely not. But I refuse to stop meeting new people, and I refuse to stop growing. And sometimes that means that you have to ebb and flow with different careers, and it's landed me where I am right now. And my gosh, I couldn't be more grateful.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about where you grew up and your childhood?
Sure. I am blessed to be one of three girls. My dad, God bless him, he had a wife and three girls, and my grandmother lived with us. So all he had was the dog, Sweet Pumbaa. The only dog, it was the only other male in the house. And we were raised in a house that everybody did their part. Everybody did their share. So living with my grandmother ever since my youngest sister was born, we all shared duties. So my mother worked at our school. She took the sacrifice, in what I look at as a sacrifice, to always take a job working at the nicest school in the area so that we could go regardless of where we lived. So we always went to the A-rated schools. We went to the best schools. We were involved in everything because my mom took a job there so that we could go there regardless of where we lived. My father worked tirelessly, and my grandmother then stayed home and played the role of the mom, if you will. So my grandma cooked, and then eventually my grandma got a job at the high school too. So I couldn't get away with anything in school because my mom either worked at the elementary or the middle school I was at, and then my grandmother worked at the high school, and eventually my mom worked at the high school. So there was no skipping school for me. It wasn't a thing, There was eyes on me all the time. But we really had this dynamic of family where everybody chipped in, everybody helped. And I was raised with that it's not, one person works and one person stays home or one person does this. No, we all do it. Everybody jumps in and does something. And I'm raising my daughter in that image as well, that, my husband and I and her, everybody's got to do a little part of it to make it all work. It's a big puzzle that all has to kind of connect. And I'm grateful and so grateful for living up with those family values. And we have no actual biological family in Florida. We moved here in the early 90s. My dad took a job. He worked for Sikorsky, and they moved the whole division down here. We're the only people that came from our family. So I have no biological family in Florida. And let me tell you what, the family I was blessed with, I wouldn't change it for the world. I mean, my aunts and uncles aren't my aunts and uncles, but they're everything that I ever could have wanted in that. And now when we have family parties, it's silly to make a dinner reservation right now for my family and all of my siblings and their husband's family, and then my spouse and his 22 people. 22 people have to host us just for one family birthday dinner. And we've done so here because you guys have the facility for that, It's nothing short of incredible, the amount of love that we have in our life and the amount of people that come together for us. And we have no biological relation to those people.
So you can tell that Meghan is a very depressed person. She doesn't bring much light when she speaks. Would you share with us a life-altering moment with you and your daughter? You were a badass CrossFitter.
I was.
And you had just started dating a handsome guy.
I did. Yeah. So it is crazy how you can wake up and everything changes. I was very happily married for almost 10 years to my first husband, and we grew up and we grew apart. And we're still very, very good friends, but we decided to separate, and it's wonderful. I mean, we have celebrated all of these life events together with Addison. She's always knows that she has the four of us in her corner, and that would be my ex-husband and his wife, and then now my husband. And right after that happened, I had freshly started dating again, and that was scary to begin with. And
Were you here? Were you in Florida then?
I was here. Yep.
Oh, okay.
So I was right here. I was living just over there in Stewart in Mariner Village, and I was competing in a CrossFit competition with my brand new boyfriend. So we'd been dating just 3 months. Happens to be, though, I grew up next door to him. I knew him my whole life. It's so funny. The girl next door story kind of came around, and it was real. It's real.
It happened.
I'm the girl next door. So we go, we start dating. We get we meet at the gym again. We re-meet, and Hard Exercise Works Stewart. Big shout out to them. They're a wonderful family there. And we are competing in this competition, and we're prepping, and we find out, unfortunately, that my grandmother has passed away, the one that doesn't live with us in Connecticut. So we go to Connecticut, and I got a little cold. I let it go. It's cold out. You just kind of let it roll. You're a mom. You got to keep moving. So it just kept getting increasingly not going away. And eventually I got to the point that I looked at my mom and I said, I think something's really wrong. I think we really need to look into this. And a story that I have to put this out into the universe because she'll never let me live it down, or I won't let her live it down. She was reading a book and she goes, all right, as soon as I finish this chapter, I'll take it to the emergency room.
I hope she's a fast reader.
Thank God she is. And so I said, I think there's something really up. And sure enough, that date changed the remaining course of my life. So we do go in, and I end up finding out within an hour and a half of being into the hospital here in Martin County, I was in ICU. And they looked at my mom and they said, she's dying and we don't know why. And so all of the parties that I've mentioned come in at this point right now. So my ex-husband and his wife are helping with my daughter. My new boyfriend is helping with my daughter, my parents, my sisters. And for the next 7 months, we have no answers. We just sit and wait and try and figure out what's going on with me. Martin Memorial did a wonderful job in taking care of me at that time. I ended up that immediate day when I was put into ICU, I was septic. My blood had an infection running through it that they didn't know what to do with. And they continued to care for me to the best of their ability. Up until one point, a doctor who I have a lot of respect for looked at me and said, we don't know what's wrong with you, and we can't help you anymore. So we're going to move you to the University of Florida Shands Hospital, and we're going to hope that they can fix you because we're out of answers. And at this point, I'm, completely immobile. I have no use of my lower limbs anymore. I am on an incredible amount of medication just to keep me here. I take the ride, right? Like, what are you going to do? So I get put in the back of an ambulance the day of my daughter's 5th birthday. And I had some incredible people in my life that took pictures of her at school that day, so I didn't miss her school birthday party. And I FaceTimed her as often as I could. And the hospital was so great. They used to know I would get my lunch during the day, and I would save one cookie. They'd give you a cookie with your lunch at the hospital, and I would save it for her. So when she would come to visit me after school, I'd have a cookie for her. And the nurses caught on, and they'd bring me 2 cookies each day, so I could have my cookie for her and my cookie for me. And I took the biggest leap of faith and got in the back of an ambulance and was driven up to Gainesville and left everybody behind. My parents
What time of day did you leave?
So I left, it was in the morning time.
Okay, so mornings.
Yep, in the morning time. And my sisters waved me off as I went. And we drove up there, and my parents came. And can you imagine? Yeah. What you're feeling is exactly, you asked my sisters today what was one of the hardest things they've ever done, and it was watching me drive away in that ambulance because they didn't know they'd ever see me again. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And my parents literally gave up everything to be with me up there. Both of their jobs, they took a hiatus from both of their employment. and they came up and lived in Gainesville with me. There was an incredible hotel down the road that gave a discount if you had somebody in the hospital, which is a crazy thing to have to ask for. And they stayed up there, and my brand new boyfriend helped take care of my beautiful 5-year-old daughter with my ex-husband and his wife and my sisters, and they all jumped in to make this happen. And we get up to Gainesville, and I'm increasingly getting sicker at this point. And it was a teaching hospital. Shands is a teaching hospital. So they would do their rounds in the mornings. So the professor comes in with a bunch of students, and they all look at me, and they're like, do you know what's wrong with her? Like, can you figure it out? And it was a whole bunch of no's or I don't knows or maybes. And finally, a professor comes in, and she says, I think you have a rare form of toxic shock syndrome that comes from a sinus infection. And I said, okay. She's like, I looked it up in the Oxford Journal, and she busts out this paperwork, and she said, the downside is that the cure is what we've thought this whole time was making you sick. So if we give you this, it's either going to save your life or it's going to kill you. What do you want to do? And I looked at her and I go, I'm dying anyway. Let's go. Like, what are you going to do?
You're already on the way out.
I'm already on the way out. Let's give it a shot. And she goes, we think that this medication will save your life. And so that day, I signed over my parental rights to my ex-husband in case I passed, because I didn't have a will. I was 30. I signed over my parental rights. I had what was seemingly the last phone call I'd ever have with my daughter. And I called her on FaceTime, and we talked about her birthday and how great it was, and how when we got back, I promised we'd reschedule her birthday when I get home. Yeah, we're going to reschedule her birthday when I get home. And I'm Catholic, so they call in the reading of the Last Sacrament. And so they come in, and the minister says to me, what do you want to take with you into the new realm that you're going into? When you close your eyes after this, what do you want to take with you? And I said, I don't want to talk about that. And they looked at me and go, what? I said, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk to you about what I'm going to do when I get better. They said, all right, go for it. I said, I'm going to quit my job because I hate my job. I'm going to spend more time with Addison. I get one shot at this. I'm going to travel. I hadn't been out of the country ever. I said, I'm going to do things. I'm going to spend time with her and make experiences with her that matter, because it can go away that quickly. And they said, okay. And they gave me my rights, and they read it to me, and they started the medication. And I talked to my boyfriend on FaceTime, who is now my husband. I said, just good luck and Godspeed, right? That's all you got. You don't have anything else. So I said, let's do this. And they started the medication. And 4 days later, I walked out of the hospital. And I've never been the same since. The medicine worked. The teacher was right. No doctor could figure it out. The professor was correct that is what was wrong with me. And I walked out of that hospital, and I changed everything. I married the guy that was my boyfriend, even though I said I was never going to get married again. Marriage wasn't for me. I was never going to do that again. I was never going to give all of myself to someone else. And then I looked at that man who took care of my child the entire time I was sick. I looked at that man who would come and meet me at 9 p.m. at the hospital, and all the staff would leave, and it was quiet in the hallway, and it was the hardest time to be alone. And he would come watch Netflix comedians with me, and we would laugh at night, to the point that the nurses would yell at us for being too loud. And I quit my job, and I took a $30,000 a year pay cut to go work at her school, so I could see her every single day. And I traveled that year I said yes to every wedding invitation I'd ever been invited to, even if we didn't even really know the people, because I was like, let's go. St. Louis? All right, we're there. We traveled to 7 states. That year, I got my passport for the first time. Having your end date handed to you changes everything about the way that you live the remaining days of your life. Because, and I was just saying this to the gentleman downstairs, I had 2 choices. I could have laid down and that'd have been it. Or I could fight. And I fought like hell. And I have everything that is good in my life right now to thank for, because I got sick. Because you said, how did you live with what you happened? Say that again.
What happened and how did you learn to live with it? What happened to you and how did you learn to live with it?
So that's just it. It changed the way I lived. I live differently because something bad happened to me.
It changed you for the better.
For the better. And
that's what I'm saying.
I look at Addison now, and Addison is my daughter. I look at the way that she lives her life, and I look at the way that I raise her, and I raise her knowing that every night, if I go to bed and that's the last night, I did everything in my power to make sure that I was fully present for her and fully present for my family. And the things that we did during that time to adapt. So one of my favorite stories is Easter Sunday. I'm in the hospital. Easter Sunday, I'm in Gainesville. My whole family lives here. My sisters drive Addison all the way up to Gainesville so that we can spend Easter Sunday together. And we find out that the Olive Garden caters. So the Olive Garden catered to Shands Hospital, and we set up an entire Easter Sunday dinner so I could get there by my wheelchair, and we could all have Easter Sunday dinner together. And I took a picture that day that's printed in my house multiple places because I was certain that was the last picture I'd ever have of all of us. But I wasn't going to let being sick stop it. We deserve to be together. We deserve to spend the holiday together, even if it's in the Shands Hospital dining area with Olive Garden catered in. And we've catered Olive Garden every year since. So
now 4 days goes by and you walk out of the hospital. Mm-hmm. What was recovery like for you? Because you had to be physically altered from being so sick for so long. First of all, did you still have hair?
Mm-mm. So I left with the hospital with hair, actually. So I still had hair leaving the hospital, but not very much of it. And so I get taken home, and I'm now bound to an IV pole at this point. So we've got an IV medication that has to be administered every few hours for a month. And I moved back in with my parents, and bless it that we all live so close together. So my parents take me in for the month, the following month. And I start to lose more and more of my hair. And part of what was happening to me is I was losing my skin as well. So I was just wrapped kind of like a mummy. And I have to make...
Your arms or just your hands?
It was everything. My hands, my face, my arms was just... It's called skin sloughing. So your body is an incredible gem. It decides what you need and what you don't. So when I was dying, it realized all you need is your core. So it started letting go of all of the other things, which is why I couldn't move. But it kept all of the internal organs doing what they were supposed to. So I have to make the decision to shave my head at this point. My hair is falling out. We laugh that I look like Doc Brown from Back to the Future and or the guy from Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I invite my sisters to help me be a part of that. And so my sisters sit with me and they cut my hair. And then together with my best friend, we shave my head. And at this point, I'm just barely 30 years old. And now I'm bald. And I still need help getting back and forth and moving places. And
yeah, your strength.
It is nothing. I mean, it is I'm depleted at every level with the exception of I can now walk. So I use a walker, but I can walk. And my mom ends up taking a hiatus from her job and takes care of me. I've got to raise a kid and she's got to take care of me. And so we do this and I get stronger and stronger. And then I start volunteering at the school where Addison goes. I start doing lunchroom duty because I'm not working back yet.
How long did it take you to get to that point?
It was a 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah, 6 months once I left the hospital. And
So you had probably 2 or 3 months where you were just barely getting around the house.
just
barely.
barely.
So your strength was that weak that to get 10 steps.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So what happened too during the process, everything that was happening as your body starts to shut down, it lets go of the things that you no longer need. So I collapsed a lung during it. So I only have one lung now. And it's hard to breathe to move one step to the next, So I have equipment that I have to take with me and an IV pole, and I have to do breathing treatments every 3 hours. And I'm completely medication dependent at this point. There's things that I can't, if I don't take the medication, I wouldn't be here today. So all of this is happening while I'm trying to raise a little one too. So I promised her that I would.
She doesn't understand. She can't.
No, I'll tell you the funniest story. So the day I was the final day I went in by ambulance before leaving for Gainesville, she's having breakfast and my blood pressure drops so low that I end up having a seizure. And she's eating breakfast at the table. And I go down, and of course there's panic in the household, and they call 911 and the whole thing. And she says, "Mom, I just thought it was funny. When they were taking you out on the ambulance," she's like, "the one guy said, I like Lucky Charms too," because she was having Lucky Charms.
Little comic relief.
So I'll always love the guys at Station 33 here in Hope Sound because they made her feel like she was involved in something that was going on that day, because he said, "I like Lucky Charms too." And so she remembers that. And so she had to kind of figure out how to learn differently with me, how I was going to be a mom in a different capacity. And then her birthday is in April. Which I missed, and I promised her. And then June 9th, we had a birthday party for her, and we acted as if it was her actual birthday because I promised her that I would host her birthday party, and I wasn't going to let anything. So a few months later, we had her birthday party, and I was able to attend and be a part of that. And then from there, I changed everything. I mean, I started volunteering at the school, as I mentioned, which then led to me getting a job there. They hired me at the school. I worked at Seawind Elementary right here in Hope Sound, and I quit the job I hated. I spent more time with her, and I've never looked back. And now I work with the Boys and Girls Club, and part of that is because it allows me the freedoms to be with her. I've never missed a dance recital. I've never missed a basketball game, a cheerleading game. I've never missed her being on stage for anything because it's too damn short.
Yeah.
You don't get an opportunity to go back and say, "Oh man, I wish I hadn't worked so hard because of this or that." We'd be fine with peanut butter and jelly every day if that's all I could offer, if it meant that I got to spend all that time with her. And then, like I said, with my husband, I looked at him the day we shaved my head. I looked at him. I said, "I know I told you I don't ever want to get married again." And he goes, "I know." And I go, "I think I'm going to reconsider that." He goes, "Yeah." And I go, "But can you please wait until I have hair before you propose?" And so a year later, I had the cutest little pixie cut that you could even see. It was just the cutest little flipped out hair. And he proposed to me on the top of the largest waterfall in Georgia. And we've been married now ever since. So it's looking at that situation, though, it's a shame that we have to have something like that happen to be able to say, "I'm going to do this better. I'm going to take more time for myself. I'm going to take more time for my family. I'm going to quit the job that makes really good money, but find a job that makes me happy." It's a damn shame that it takes dying to figure that out. And I walk forth now in my life reminding people of that every day.
Well, it was probably what you were in the hospital, 8 months, 9 months or so?
Yeah. It can combine 9 months.
So, yeah, it's 250 days, or so.
Yep.
You take that many days out of your life, that's a big hunk.
Well, and they used to tease me at the hospital up in Gainesville. So I decided while I was in there that I was not just going to die. each day I had a choice. You wake up and you say, lay here and let it take you, or don't. And so I would get up and I would play a little Spotify radio station. And it was called Have a Great Day. It was all happy and upbeat music. And I would do squats. So I would get out of my bed and I would hold on to the things up until I physically could not. And I would exercise. And I would do little exercises, 10 squats at a time. And then I would sit back in the bed. And the nurses would come in and then they would start doing them with me because they thought it was so fun. So we're all doing squats together. And I looked at the one nurse one day and she goes, "Why do you do it?" And I said, "Well, what other choice do I have? I either give up or I don't."
Nothing. Yeah, you got to.
You got to fight.
You got to fight.
And I look at people now that are in their lives and yes, it is tough. There are things that are going on that are difficult and I don't disagree with any of that. And trauma and difficult things look different for each person, right? But you have a choice. You can either sit there and take it or you can stand up to it. And every day I did my squats and they would laugh and they would oh, there's the girl that's doing the squats. And now here I am all these years later, former CrossFit athlete. I mean, competitor, right? Placing first in my divisions. And I can't do that anymore. That physically I'm not capable of those things anymore. Doesn't mean I don't show up. Doesn't mean I don't go and walk. When everybody else runs, I walk. When everybody else lifts 55 pounds and 75 pounds, I lift a PVC pipe. And that's it. Because I'm not going to stop trying just because I can't do it anymore. I'm not gifted the same set of skills I was gifted before I got sick. But at least I have a chance to give it a shot. And I live every part of my life that way. I often put myself in front of situations that I'm certainly not qualified for. But it can't hurt to try, right? What's the worst they can tell me? No. What's the worst they can say? Thanks, but no thanks. You got to live like that. Because that's just it. You're living. Otherwise, and I say this to my sisters all the time, that, you know, I'm not afraid to die. I'm not. If that's what the path is for me, and today is the day that we go on into the future, okay. What I am afraid of is a life that isn't worth living. And living a life that is static and not growing at any point. I'm terrified of that.
But this changed your whole family, your sisters, your mother and father. Okay, so how much did it change them?
So they, we actually were just chatting about this week. My poor sister got shingles during it because she was so stressed out trying to make sure that I was okay. And my little sister and I had a conversation this week. I was over there and she said, "You know, Megan, you were the only person that you weren't afraid you were going to die. You were the only person who wasn't afraid of that." She said, "Do you know that we all were?" And I said, "I never really thought of it that way. I guess selfishly, I only took care of myself during that time in my brain." And she's like, "Do you know what it feels like to think every day may be our last day with you?" And I said, "You know what, Nikki, I never did think that. I never thought of it like that." And she goes, "We lived every day afraid that when we hung up the phone, that was the last time we got to say goodnight to you." And it makes me appreciate them more than I did before, if that's even possible. I mean, I love them more than, you know, the earth itself, but to not know each night if that was the last goodbye has got to be incredibly difficult. And now we talk more than most families should. We get together more than often. My mom teased the other day. We had seen each other 3 days in a row that week for random events. And she texted and she's like, "I feel like I never see you guys." And it was joking, and that we see each other all the time. I mean, I don't know that any one of us can move away ever, because the idea of not being able to get together once a week for spaghetti is terrifying, I guess, because we almost didn't have it. We were that close.
And yet we delude ourselves going through life. You know, one of the things that I share, especially with young people, if I sent you out to buy a gallon of milk and you go into the grocery store and you go to the dairy counter, what's the first thing you do when you grab the gallon of milk? You look for the expiration date, because every gallon of milk has an expiration date on there. And you don't want to get one that's going to expire tomorrow or that expired the day before today. We all have an expiration date. and it's tattooed somewhere on our spirit or our soul or the back of our head that we can't see. And yet we live as if we have all the time in the world. And we're always going to do something, but we never quite get around to doing that. And it is that moment for you that was such a terrible moment, but it was a defining moment. It was your wake-up call. And
I can't imagine if I still worked in the job I had worked then. Blessed be for what it was worth, right? It was wonderful for me as I was growing up into an adolescent, into a professional. But my gosh, what a waste of the things that I have to offer this world would that job have been if I was stuck behind a desk still. And how many of Addison's things I would have missed out on because I was so career focused. And I to be the top of my career prism meant you had to skip all of your family things and you had to work. And you had to show up for 60 hours when you got paid for 40 to show them that you were worthy. I'm worthy enough already. What I bring to you is the community connections, is the person who is out there saying, I have value and I'm willing to share that value with you. And I don't have to do so at the expense of raising a family. And, people ask me too with having an ex-husband, right? So divorces are difficult and separations are not easy. He is one of my dearest friends and still is. And his wife and I, we have a wonderful relationship. And, him and my husband, we have a wonderful relationship. And they say, how did you do that? How did you get over the fact of all of that difficult period in your life being separated, and which you don't get married to get divorced, right? We all get married with the intention of being married forever. And how are you okay with that? And I stop and I think, why not? I mean, so I can be angry forever, right? I can be upset forever that my fairy tale didn't turn out the way that I thought it would. All that's doing is upsetting me. It's showcasing to my daughter that there is no such thing as learning and growing from experiences. And they are free to live their life just the way that they want to. So the only person that gets hurt in that is myself. And I have friends that say, I just don't know how you got to that point. And I went, look at the alternative. You sit and you be upset and you're angry because your fairy tale didn't turn out the way you wanted it to. And all of a sudden Cinderella's shoes are plastic. I could be upset about that. Or I could just move on and get to enjoy the fact that we get to spend her birthday with all 4 parents that love her more than life itself.
Yeah. Well, I think about the song, live life like you're dying.
Absolutely.
And that's what it is. It's, and
you change everything when you have that put in front of you. And so there are days I would be remiss to say if there's days I'm not sad, right? I miss her. I miss the woman I used to be.
Yep.
I miss the athlete I used to be.
Yep.
I miss, not having to coordinate medications and doctors and scheduling. And I miss the body I had back then, right? Like now I've been, if you will, cursed with all of these types of illnesses that have come forth. So after getting better, I now live with lifelong illnesses that will have come from that. Having one lung, having to take shots each month to make sure that my immune system doesn't hurt me, to having to go for, annual blood work and things that most people don't have to do. I miss her. I do miss her. And I long for her at times. I wish that she could still be here with us, that girl that I was. But all that girl had that I don't now is those physical attributes. And what I gained emotionally and mentally from being sick, I think is 10 times more valuable than a young body and a fit body. And all those things go with time regardless. I gained so much more from it.
I had the privilege of meeting Meghan, I don't even know.
5 years ago.
5 years? Mm-hmm. And she came to work in a restaurant, and the restaurant was struggling. And I watched this woman just absolutely burn the floor up, just making it happen. And I didn't know her. And I walked over and I said, would you come with me? And I walked up to the owner because I knew the owner. And I said, this woman is going to save your restaurant if you let her. And he was like, really? And I said, yes, you need help, and this is your help. And I watched her through that place and then just continue to grow on. And the Boys and Girls Club is very, very lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Because she is a connector. She meets one person and she's like, oh, I know somebody that you need to meet. And she has this entire web of human beings that all know her, all love her, all respect her, and all support her and the Boys and Girls Club. And it's been an incredible ride. It's really enjoyable to witness and to be a small part of.
I appreciate that. And I think that it comes down to as well that you have to be genuine all the time. And so that's with your flaws, that's with your successes. If you're real and you're honest and you're truthful, then you will land in places that you're supposed to be. And I'm grateful for, working at that restaurant, I met some wonderful, wonderful people. That's when I started to really meet the crew that we are kind of running circles with. And that led me to Boys and Girls Club. And I love what I do because I have an opportunity each day to connect kids that need things. They need opportunities. They need people. They need mentors. They need friends. And then I have all of these people over here that are just willing and waiting for somebody to say, we want to help, but how? And so I'm blessed each day that that's what I get to do. I get to say, I have a need. You have a service. How can we make this happen?
And we just actually had that take place downstairs. We were very, very blessed to have Scott Burrows, one of the best inspirational speakers I've ever met, I've ever heard. Incredible story. And Meghan came in and we all sat there and talked a little bit. And Scott said, I really want to be more involved. And I said, boy, did you pick the wrong two people to talk to? And he's going to be working with the Boys and Girls Club. And that's a direct result of this woman, that she just never, ever stops. So, and you. And kudos. Well,
Awesome.
And I think that we can say the same thing about you, Harry. You have the platform that allows you to reach out to more people. You have been gifted this blessing in life where you see all of us and the needs and the services, and you make it a point to connect people that are beneficial for one another. Do you know how easy it would be for you to clock in and clock out?
No.
You've been here, 72 years?
You don't care about your town or the county if you do that. You know what? Like I said, I've loved and fought for this county in front of the commission since I was 13. So, you know what? I have a love affair with this county.
But you don't have to. And that's the difference, is that you opted in the same way that Bob does and the same way that I learned to. We could sit back. We could sit on our laurels and let it all happen around us if we wanted to. We choose not to.
Yep.
We opt to make people better. We opt to make the community better. We opt to make this place better for the kids that are growing up in it. My daughter will never know anything other than Martin County until she goes away to school and whatever her opportunities take her. She will grow up loving and living in a place that I feel blessed to raise a child in. And it's because of people like us work to keep it that way.
She might have to do online college. I don't think you're going to let her go.
Hey, I know, right? I went to IRSC. I didn't leave.
I'm just saying, I don't think you're going to let her go.
Addie's an incredible light. We did the cleanup that we had everybody meet here, and we all went out and did the town cleanup, and she was a part of it, and just an absolute guiding light. And you can see from Mom where she gets that from.
So I had a really interesting experience with her this week. I think it's one that I may hold on to forever, and I'm very glad it's going to be memorialized in this podcast. So I public speak often. It's what a portion of my job is, to be out in the community and talking about what we do at the Boys and Girls Club. And I work so that she doesn't have to be, taken to every single event that I go to. So if she can stay home with her dad or her other dad or her stepmom or grandma, I kind of work that out. However, I had an event this week that was right across the street from where she goes to school. So I said, you know what, just come with me. I know it's the last thing you want to do after being at school that day is you want to be, taken to an event, but come with me. So of course she is, as you know, very much like me. The second she sees a need, she starts jumping in. So she's setting up chairs and tables and all of this. As I get up there, I'm the MC of the event. So I'm speaking at the podium. She's in the far back of the room and she's watching me and I'm watching her watch me. And we do the entire presentation and everything goes swimmingly. And I get in the car on the way home and she goes, Mom, I cried watching you tonight.
Wow.
And I go, why? And she goes, everybody talks about what a great public speaker you are. And everybody talks about how engaged you are with the kids that you serve at the Boys and Girls Club. She goes, but I never get to see it. She said, I saw it tonight, Mom, and I'm so proud of you. That's a lot for a 13-year-old kid to realize. And to hear that back is the best compliment I've ever received in my entire life was, I'm so proud of you. And I cried because I was so proud of you, Mom. You're doing really good work.
Wow.
And that's a testament to putting your 2 feet flat on the ground each morning when you wake up, because it's not a thing often that teenage girls think about.
But that's a growth of 8 years too, the last 8 years and what you've gone through and everything else of almost dying and coming back from that, and she sees that and she's part of that too. And she appreciates it. And that's the love coming out, that's, because other kids wouldn't appreciate it like that.
Right. Because she saw me from,
Yep. They would take it for granted.
I think so.
That's just, they hear it all the time, so they don't appreciate it. I think that,
well, we just had a conversation at lunch that your family too, like when our kids weren't given the easiest paths in life as children or grandchildren, and having to go through that tough road where everything is a little bit less than flat, it's made them better as adults, young adults. And I know that we talked heavily about that this week, in that our kids and grandkids are better off in life, I think, because tough stuff happened to us and we opted to teach them lessons when it happened versus being mad at the world. Because I could be really angry if I wanted to. If I wanted to stop and whine, I could. It wasn't fair. It wasn't fair what happened to me. I was healthy, the healthiest I'd ever been in my whole life. I was working out. I was eating right. I had a good job. Everything in my life was exactly the way it should have been on paper.
That you did everything to make it that way, and this comes in and attacks your system that you're working so hard to make healthy.
Absolutely.
And that's why mentally it makes no sense.
Yep.
Because you're physically, and when you're taking those steps to eat right and do everything right, and we all know, your watch calorie intake, how much you're supposed to be taking, and it doesn't matter if you're running or whatever, you're trying to do everything the right way.
I did everything right and I still got sick.
That's what I'm saying.
And that's not fair.
No.
And I could sit and be angry for a really long time about that if I wanted to be. And I look at other people when bad things happen in their life. You could sit and be angry about it because you're well within your right to be upset. But where's that going to get you? You're not going to get any further along than you were a minute ago if you just sit and be upset about it. And I've watched we have wonderful friends who have been through some terrible things, and all of them have opted to say, you know what, this sucks, but I'm going to live my life differently going forward. I'm going to be grateful for the things I do have. I have a beautiful friend she is just now 21 years old, was slated to go away to the service. She was already ready. She signed up. That's her dream, is to be in the service. She falls off a horse, breaks her arm, goes into the hospital, and they find out that she's got an osteosarcoma in her shoulder. She has cancer. She's 18 at the time. She's in her senior year of high school. And the doctor looks at her and says, we have a couple of options here, but the best option being we remove the arm and then we eliminate completely the opportunity for it to come back. At 17 and a half years old, she decides to remove her arm so that the cancer doesn't come back. She then goes on to finish high school. She walks down the graduation aisle freshly after surgery. And now here she is at 21 years old, and she lives life every single day as if it was the best thing that ever happened to her. Do you know how easy it would be for her to be angry?
Yep.
You could be so angry and bitter and mad, but she doesn't. Jessica walks around with the most beautiful smile and all new hair, because chemo gives you curls, if you didn't know. So if you want to look around at the curls, chemo gives you curls. So we get new hair after treatments, and it's fun in that way if you want to laugh about it, because you got to laugh through the sad sometimes. But she walks around with these most beautiful curls at 21 years old in one arm, learning to live her life differently, and she has never stopped smiling. And that is a testament to somebody who knows bad shit happens to good people.
Yep.
It's how you decide to deal with it that matters.
That's one of the biggest principles that we really try to teach, especially to young people, that life is 5% of what happens to you, and it's 95% what you make of it. The rain falls on the good and the bad alike. Good people have bad things happen, and bad people have good things happen. The guy that you hate won the lottery. Get over it. Holding resentment is like drinking poison, expecting the other person to die.
Amen.
And all you're doing is killing yourself. And watching you and watching what you do with those kids and adults, all the people that you influence, it's just it's a great ride. And yeah, it's bumpy.
Yeah.
And we make plans, and God laughs. And things happen, and it's life is lived forward, but it's only understood backward. And you went through those things, and they were horrible things, and you could be terribly bitter and upset. But when you look back at it, it shaped the person that you are.
Yeah.
And the mom that you are.
Thank you.
That's what I was going to say, the mother you are, because your daughter is seeing things that most girls or boys wouldn't see at least 10 years later in life, or 15 years. What would you think? Maybe
and maybe even never, and not handled well when they do see them.
Oh, even better. I like that better.
It's not handled well when it does happen.
Yes.
And then, and I would be remiss to not to mention during all of this time. So now I'm sick, I get better. Just 2 years ago, her father, stage 4 cancer. And I looked at her and I go, how do you feel about all this? And she's like, we'll do it the same way we did you. And I went, all right, so what does that mean for you, Addie? And she's like, we live every day. And now I'm glad to say he's in remission. My ex-husband is in remission now, and he's doing wonderfully. Thank you to the team here in Martin County that helped him. But she handled a parental care cancer diagnosis as if it was like a fleeting thought. And I said, Are you okay? And she goes, what are we going to do, Mom? We just got to fight. You're right, Addie. We just got to fight. You can't sit and be upset about it. We can't be. And again, he's doing wonderfully, and I'm so grateful for him and everything that the fire department has done to make sure that he's okay. And she'll always have a leg up, I think, in life, because she's dealt with some really hard stuff really young, but with people that included her in on those decisions, people who talked to her about it, and people who said, life's messy. It's not always going to be easy, but I promise you, more than anything in the whole wide world, we're going to work as hard as we can to make sure that you have everything you need.
And she's got Lucky Charms.
She's got Lucky Charms.
You got Lucky Charms.
She got Lucky Charms.
You can't forget the Lucky Charms,
All right, so we know you're all out there, and we know that you guys have stories, and we want to share those stories with people because
Yes.
the world is hungry for it. We're putting the kind back in mankind, and we're doing it one person at a time, and you were incredible.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I do think it matters to hear a little bit about somebody that you look at that may have it all figured out, right?
Yep.
So you look at, I am blessed. I have a beautiful home. I have a wonderful marriage. I have a incredible job. I have a daughter who's invested in our community. And you look at that and you say, man, she's got it so good. But sometimes stop and ask, how did you get where you are today? Because then you'll realize all of a sudden it doesn't come easy. And there's a whole lot more to the people that you communicate with and the people that you work with in this community than what you see. So don't take it just the way it is. Don't say, man, I wish I had it like that, or man, she's so lucky, or man, she's, really got it all figured out. Yeah, we're just doing the best we can with what we got. But you can learn from that.
Be kind to everyone that you meet, because everyone is carrying a burden. Everyone.
Yeah.
No one has it perfect, no matter what it looks like from the outside.
That's what we got to teach our kids.
That's it.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Seth.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Appreciate it.